Music Center has had a long and venerable history. The story begins in 1883, when 9 musically talented women led by Ella Matthews Pierce gathered on a September afternoon to form a society to promote the study and appreciation of music in all its branches and to encourage the development of music in the community. They chose to name their new organization after Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music. In the late 1880s, the members began planning for a building of their own, designed by prominent Chicago architect Henry Ives Cobb, who was a protege of Carnegie Hall's architect. The building at 24 Ransom is the only building in the United States to have been built by women and operated solely for the purpose of music. The completed building was opened to the public in 1894. St. Cecilia Music Center is truly the mother of the arts in Grand Rapids. The predecessor to the Grand Rapids Symphony was organized under St. Cecilia's sponsorship in 1919. Opera nights started in the 1960s, sowing the seed for the creation of the West Michigan Opera Association, which evolved into today's Opera Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids Civic Theater also traces its beginnings to St. Cecilia Music Center. St. Cecilia Music Center has also hosted thousands of community events since its founding, including an address by Susan B. Anthony in 1899 in support of women's suffrage. During World War I, the center served national needs by headquartering the Red Cross in the building. In the 1950s, the local art center held art classes in the building under the auspices of the GI Bill. As with every story, St. Cecilia wasn't without its share of challenges. It was slated for demolition in 1966 in the wake of downtown urban renewal. Fortunately, the building was saved by members of the community who recognized its great value as a regional asset. Since 1971, the building has been listed on the National Register of Historical Places.
Every time I walk up those stone steps and I look at that beautiful arch door, that sense of history never escapes me. It's amazing to think that people have been walking up those same steps, carrying out the same mission for well over 100 years.
Still carrying out the founders' original mission today, St. Cecilia Music Center has expanded the scope of its programming, moving beyond its decades-long reputation of an organization focused solely on classical music.
Today, St. Cecilia Music Center's 3 main concert series include the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center series. We're in our 7th season of partnership with the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center in New York. And it brings just the best chamber musicians in the world here to Grand Rapids for these amazing performances that they do. We also have our jazz series, which we're now in our 12th season with. And we're in a 5th season of the Acoustic Cafe Folk Series. And it really has brought such a unique and interesting new genre to St. Cecilia Music Center.
St. Cecilia Music Center also continues to provide quality music education opportunities for thousands of youth and adults through its School of Music programs.
We offer after-school orchestras and bands and jazz combos for kids. We also have an adult orchestra and an adult band. We have a great outreach program that we do with the Grand Rapids Public Schools called Strings to Schools. And that brings a free after-school beginning string class to the kids in various Grand Rapids public schools. We have camps in the summer. Teachers tell us that the kids that are participating in the Strings to Schools program, their grades improve, their attitude improves, and it really affects everyone in their family. So it's really important for us to continue to have a strong music education mission here at St. Cecilia.
Built by the early members of the St. Cecilia Society as a dignified temple of music, this living landmark has been true to that purpose ever since.
So one of the things that I really like about the performances and the performers at St. Cecilia, you can see it during a performance when they realize how great the venue is. It really makes the show special. I know that the audiences love it, I love it, but it's really neat when you see the performers love it as well.
St. Cecilia Music Center remains committed to being an accessible community hub that provides life-changing musical experiences for everyone who wishes to participate.
Well, I was so hoping to actually see you in person at the St. Cecilia Music Center, which is a venue. I don't think you've been to that venue before. As far as I'm concerned, this is a venue that was built for what you do. It is gorgeous, an 1894 beautiful music hall, historic venue.
Wow.
And we're going to take you there one of these days. Sooner rather than later, we're going to have you there. Because it is such a lovely place, and it is really just designed for, light instrumentation, although they do have shows there. They have rock shows there on occasion, but it really was built for an era with no amplification and the human voice with light accompaniment. And you will sound great there when you get there.
Oh, thank you. Oh gosh, that sounds like a dream, and I wish we could be there.
Yeah. Well, it'll happen. It'll happen soon. I just read an article this morning that gave me happen sooner rather than later. So we'll keep a good thought.
Yeah, and please send me that article.
I will do that very thing. Okay. Before we get too much into the discussion, I'll tell you what, why don't we start with one of your performances that you did for us today. And this is a song that everybody knows. It's a Disney classic, but done a very different way. Well, and we'll talk about it after it plays.
Okay. When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. If your heart is in your dreams, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. We your heart is in your dreams, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, as dreamers do, fate is kind. She brings to those who love the sweet fulfillment of their secret longing. Where, 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 like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. Dreams come true. Dreams come true. Dreamers do. Dreamers do. Dreamers do. Dreamers do. Dreamers do.
It is just gorgeous. Gorgeous. There are a group of, as you mentioned, Disney classics, things that we all grew up with on Dreamers Do. Some 20th century standards as well, and a couple of new songs, which we'll talk about. But some of them are done in such completely different ways. When You Wish Upon a Star is a perfect example of this. Taking a song that it's in our DNA. I mean, if you grew up any time after 1950 or whatever, this is just embedded. And to find a way to retreat it and really create something new, it's not a cover. It's an interpretation more than anything else. What was the musical choice on that to treat it the way you did?
I wrote I came up with the idea for this song sitting on a subway in New York City. And I would work on it when I was going from place to place. I knew that I wanted to sing this song. I really love the original singer who sang and was Jiminy Cricket's voice in the film Pinocchio was a man named Cliff Edwards, who was very famous for singing and playing ukulele. And he has a very specific voice. It's one that even if you've never heard his name, you know it. Like you said, Rob, his voice is just in our culture. And I felt that I have a very specific voice too, and this message that I wanted to express from this song, I felt quite up to the task of singing it. But how to do it was a quandary because the most definitive version has already been made. You know, it's like recreating Etta James at last. You just don't, or Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World, which Oddly enough, I also sang on this record, but I like the challenge. I feel that I have something to offer, not all the time. I wouldn't dare sing At Last, but I felt like I could do this one. And I wanted to approach the song from a different tone, from one of mystery. Rather than just accepting this message at face value, I wanted to come at it from a different perspective, one of someone a little more experienced in life, maybe not necessarily too much older, but a perspective where we understand that not everything works out exactly as we plan. So what does this mean? When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true.
I want you to tell us about another Disney song that was on Dreamers Do. This one goes back to 1953, Peter Pan. It's just a lovely song. And again, it's another part of our collective musical DNA. And it fit the theme of the album perfectly. What was the decision for this one?
I have always loved this song. This was written by Sammy Fain and Sammy Kahn, two of my favorite songwriters who wrote for the Great American Songbook, or we know it to be that today. They weren't calling it back then. But this is such a gorgeous song, and most people don't know it. It plays in the opening credits of the film Peter Pan.
Right.
And it's sung by a choir of voices, and so even more so, it's kind of a wash. If you're not really paying attention at the beginning, you can miss the song, but the melody is so beautiful. And once we recorded this song, or we came up with the arrangement, it was very apparent what purpose it would serve in the concept of the album. This would be a point of redemption, actually, in this journey that listeners would go on. So it's it's my favorite song on the record, actually.
Really? All right, then let's hear that. Second Star to the Right.
The second star to the right shines in the night for you, to tell you that the dreams you planned really can come true. The second star to the right shines in the night so rare. If it's Neverland you need, its light will lead you there. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, so we'll know where you are. Gleaming in the skies above, lead us to the land we dream of. And when our journey is through, each time we say good night, we'll thank the little star that shines the second from the right.
So if all of this had been, as it had been, Dreamers Do, this was an album about dreaming and about the dream state. And this would have been interesting enough, but it came out just days before everything shut down. And that changes the conversation a little bit, but I want to get to both sides of that conversation if we can. First, let's talk about Dreamers Do as a concept. And taking on sort of an entire night's worth of dreaming from start to finish. That is a concept in total. So you had to kind of think of that as a concept piece, right?
Yeah, I did. It really started out with particular circumstances that were happening in my life. I found myself asking the question, is there ever a point where we run out of time and it's too late to dream? And that's a very scary prospect, particularly for an artist who is always creating and building off of dreams, their dreams, personal dreams. I'm not talking about the ones when we sleep, but the ones that we imagine and fantasize about. So I had this question that I couldn't put down, and I found myself looking for the answer in old Disney music that I heard as a child that encouraged me from the very beginning that when you wish upon a star, your dreams will come true, and other songs like a dream is a wish your heart makes when you're fast asleep. No matter how your heart is grieving, a dream that you wish will come true. That's from Cinderella. And when I was a child, I just took these messages for what they were saying, and I believed them with my whole heart, and I never actually questioned them. And I grew into an adult and began to pursue my art with the same beautiful belief, possibly naivete, but belief nonetheless. And as it goes in life, when you begin to struggle, you start having questions, self-doubts, wondering how things actually work in this world, in this life. And so I began exploring dreams and what it is to have them and what it is to feel like we failed at accomplishing them. And I found that all of this music that I started to explore would be really good in as an experience from when you go to bed at night, just expecting to fall asleep and dream, and what can take place over the course of a night. In this instance, a left turn is taken and some really wild dreams and nightmares start to happen. And then the incident of waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to fall back asleep, and then finally falling asleep and resting, and what comes out of that. This was an incredible journey that I actually just went on in order to create this. And it was, as a result, it was the most satisfying record that I've made yet. It felt like there was an actual end, and I actually got an answer at the end, and that was a wonderful feeling. It comes at an interesting time because there has been all this renewed talk over the last year about dreams and about disturbed sleep, and the fact that our dreams are maybe not what we are used to them being because our daily lives are now so disrupted. That I found this to be like a very calming piece to come just at the right time, just by circumstance. I mean, you certainly didn't know, and it wasn't created during the pandemic, but it's kind of a sweet piece to go along with a troubled time. I'm so glad, because actually I found the question that I was asking rather disturbing, and ultimately what came from it was that I felt it was a catharsis to make this, and I felt relief and release at the end. So I would love that in this time, this nightmare that we've all been experiencing for the last year or more is that there's some comfort in listening to this music.
as we mentioned, the pandemic came along really as the album was released. I mean, about a month after the album came out, everything shut down. And so I was following along, and I noted that about a month after that, mid-April, you sort of made an interesting pivot, and you started to do the Cat Edmonson show every Sunday night. For those who haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's charming. It's like cabaret. It's like a nightclub show, just without the audience, but you sing songs, you take suggestions, you interact with the audience through the chat feature. There are swag giveaways. It's a lot of fun. And it has this sense, it has a feeling a little bit of young Cat performing in her bedroom, just having a great time kind of feel. You know what I'm talking about? And with no audience, like just, but there is, and you're doing it for people. It's a good concept. It works well.
It's funny that you say that, Rob, because I really was reluctant to begin live streaming. I didn't like the idea, and everyone suddenly got on their phones as soon as we got home, and we started performing, and I didn't understand why. There was so much to process. I didn't want to just turn my phone around and look at me. I wanted to know what was going on in the world. But, of course, we were on this 40-city tour promoting Dreamers Do when the pandemic struck. And everything was postponed. And everything that I was depending on for the tour, frankly, the income for the tour was just all to a halt. And out of necessity, I decided to start the Cat Edmonson show to continue promoting the record and to find some means of revenue. And as soon as I got started, I announced a live stream, and then I remembered it was just like the child in me woke up and was like, yes, we're going to do the Cat Edmonson show. And it was exactly like when I was a kid and adults would, come over to hang out at the house, and I would announce, okay, there's going to be a show. And then I'd go back in my room and prepare the costumes and come back and sing the songs. I mean, this is so much like that. It's like I've been preparing for this my whole life. And the fact that I have this chat feed happening makes it so much fun because the audience really dictates where the night goes. But I am feeling in my element in this scenario, and I won't stop it once the pandemic is fully over and we're all back to touring. I'll keep doing this because it's a new medium that I adore. It's really fun.
Well, so I was going to ask you about one particular piece of this that struck me. Again, this is not what you necessarily would want to do, but because of circumstances, you're doing what you need to do. And unlike a lot of people that I have seen in these circumstances, you truly seem to be enjoying it. So what I'm wondering is if there is some new part of you as a performer that you have learned about yourself doing these shows.
Absolutely. I love the nuance that the camera will pick up that you don't get in a theater. I mean, you do the best you can on a stage in front of however many people, but the camera is so close. So every facial movement, even a blink, a breath, these things are suddenly magnified and important. They're an essential part of the performance. And I'm also an actress. I went to acting school, and I love to be on camera. So this is exciting. It's opened up a lot of possibilities for me as I perform. And also, you mentioned me being a kid in my bedroom putting on a show. That's how I got started. And so there's something that I'm returning to here, that the intimacy of this and actually not needing a physical audience in the room, it turns out. I think most performers, how they learn. And yet I was performing for nobody in the beginning, and this reminds me of that. So it feels quite natural.
Which is exactly how I started. When I was 8, I used to sit in my bedroom with a tape recorder, a record player, and the newspaper and do these radio shows. I would give anything to find one of those tapes again. I would love to hear it. But it was all recorded. It was all there. And, that was just, but you're right. It's like, that's where you kind of work out all of that stuff. You're imitating poorly, probably, but you're imitating your idols, and you're working out you're going one step into professionalism when you're just a child, like single digit child.
Yeah.
and
but the amazing thing is you're seemingly so far away from where you're wanting to get to, but in retrospect, you're much closer than you think.
Right.
Aren't you?
Right.
Yeah.
And you're trying to bring those two things together. Like you at least you can hear that you're not here, but you're trying to figure out how to get closer to it. I'll tell you what, why don't we play another performance? This is one of the originals from Dreamers Do. It's called Too Late to Dream.
Childish fantasy. It was not to me. Whatever I could dream was meant to be. Tell me, little star, have I come too far? Have all these dreams only been just that, just dreams? Can I keep on believing like I could always do? Or is it too late to dream? Am I no longer free? Am I caged by my age? And is this the last page? Am I playing the final scene? Is it too late to dream? Or is it too late to dream? Am I no longer free? Am I caged by my age? And is this the last stage? When the moon is soon no more to shine, but give way to a day that isn't mine. Will it pass me by before my time? Is it too late to dream?
back to the album for just a second. So there are a couple of new songs. There is that disturbing moment in the night on Someone's in the House. And then the song that we just heard, Too Late to Dream. So you really didn't do a lot of writing on this. I mean, it was really about arranging that sequence so that everything would be, a proper story told through the night. And I want to get to a brand new piece of writing. We'll get to that in just a second. I have spoken with numerous artists here in the last year about how they're using this time, not being on the road, not being in the studio in a lot of cases, just not doing that cycle. Musical and non-musical things that have come out of that. Let's start with the non-musical things first. So You've had more time. Of course you've had more time. So how are you filling the time?
It's amazing. Once I started doing the Cat Edmonson show, that ended up taking a lot of my time because just the logistics of the show. I mean, we're doing like sound and lights, and we have a set here in the house, and promoting the show throughout the week takes time. Sometimes advertising the show, like paying for advertisements. You're talking about non-musical things, but like music business. I started a merchandise store, a shop where I created merchandise to sell. That took up a fair amount of time, and then just generally, I'm an independent artist, so I'm running my own label, and I'm handling my affairs, and that stuff is taking my time.
Yeah,
so between the show and that, I'm pretty full. But I will say that this show, I sing a lot of my own songs, and I sing a lot of covers. It runs the gamut. But the covers that I sing, what I've been doing within this newfound time, because I don't have to go anywhere, is researching how the songs were written, who wrote them, why, what was taking place in history when they were written, and what the song, means to other people. These songwriters that I'm talking about, what else they wrote and what was going on in their lives. And this is the first time that I've really had the luxury of exploring this. And it's like my happy place. I'm just loving it. But as you know, Rob, because you do this is what you do. It takes time. So I'm reading and researching.
Huh. That's very interesting. It sounds like you have really filled the time. Like, it doesn't sound like you handled this exactly as I thought you would handle this. Like, you didn't sort of get defeated by it. You kind of used it as a step forward into a bunch of new things. Starting a merchandise end of the business, that's a whole thing. Like, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it is.
And then additionally, there has been some new writing, and in fact, something really, truly brand new. NPR asked you to take part in the NPR song project that they're doing, and that is very much a function of the pandemic, asking lots of great artists to create something brand new and reflecting your experience. What did they ask from you specifically?
It's funny. They asked for me to write a song about creating this show and my relationship with my audience through this show. I have a wonderful community that has grown throughout the year, and it's amazing how close we've become. So I planned to sing about that, and NPR was all on board for that. But then a series of events happened very recently, just in the last few weeks, that were the hardest part of the pandemic experience for me so far. My mom went into the hospital for something unrelated to COVID, but it was life-threatening, and she had to go in alone, and it was very unexpected and sudden. So I was beside myself being apart from her, and she was there, and she recovered. But then almost, it felt like immediately after she got released from the hospital and was recovering, this storm came.
Oh, she's in Texas.
My mom's in Texas, and
Yeah.
she lost all her power and she lost her heat. So all of this was happening, and I couldn't go and be with her. And in any other time, I would be right there with my mom. I was simultaneously working on this song for NPR, and I began to also write this song called If You're Scared as a consolation to my mom.
Well, it's a beautiful song and a lovely sentiment, and we are going to play the version as it is completed. And I want to thank you for taking time today. And like I said at the beginning, St. Cecilia Music Center is absolutely built for you, and I cannot wait to see you there in person. And we will get that show back on the books as fast as we can.
Thanks, Rob. I'm looking forward to it. Just a bad dream. That's all. That's what you hope someone might say to make it go away, but it ain't going. And your fears are growing shadows on your wall, setting traps so that you might fall. Oh, maybe it's all too much for you to bear. Oh, and maybe you feel uncertain and unprepared. There, if you're scared and nothing will console you, call on me and I will be right there. When the situation isn't fair, I will hold you. When people have sold you out for fairer weather, when you can't keep it together, maybe it's all too much for you to bear. Oh, and maybe you feel uncertain and unprepared. There, if you're scared and nothing will console you, call on me and I will be right there. When the situation isn't fair, I will hold you if you're scared. I would if I could make it go away. I'd fix it up and make it better than it was before. I'd take the whole thing on so you wouldn't have to face it. But it seems all I can do is help you to embrace it. So let's face it.